Well, we've moved into the wet sanding process on some of what I've got painted, waiting for some parts and some other things to finish up some of the paint work on the cab. While we do that, this bed's been cleared for, I don't know, maybe even 3 weeks now. I think when I started, I was in long sleeves, then we went to no sleeves, and here we are, first day of October, back in sleeves. This has taken a while. There's just no rushing it if you want to get as good a finish as possible. And if you're like me, a DIY guy, I've had mistakes that I had to correct. That all takes time. But if you stick with it, I think in the end you can pull it off. So here's what we're using today. We do have some of the big kid blocks. These are polycarbonate, 24-inch block. I think this is the 1/4 inch. So it's not super flexible, but does have enough flex that it's about right for this bed, which is basically straight. The paper that we're using is from Linear Blocking Tools. I started in 800 grit because I had some orange peel, more than what I would have liked. When I painted this, it was 96 degrees in the area that I was painting, and it was pretty humid, and I fought with some orange peel stuff that I'm not really used to, but with the 4 coats of clear on there, I have plenty to go ahead and smooth it out. As you can see here, we're already getting a lot of that out. Back to the Linear Blocking Tools paper, actually watching Sylvester's Customs YouTube channel, which is awesome. You need to check it out. Kind of turned me on to this. This is, I guess, the only roll paper that is available for wet sanding in these grits, which it works out super good with a polycarbonate block of your choice. So we have that in 800 and 1200, and then we also have some other 1500 grit paper that we'll go to on the DA before we switch over into 3000 Trizac, 5000 Trizac, and then we'll cut and buff it. This here is by Kovacs. This is their K1500 grit paper. Kovacs is pretty cool. Almost like witchcraft. It's not your traditional paper. It's I think it's latex based. And as opposed to a P1500, this is a K1500. And the K1500 is unique in that it cuts like a 1200 grit, but leaves actually a little bit finer than a 1500 grit scratch. And when you use it on this foam pad that comes with it, the stuff's super cool. And it lasts forever. This one you can see is finally probably wore out. You know, it is wore out. But when it gets dirty, I mean, you can just simply wipe it off, keep trucking. Super cool stuff, and it works really good, you know, in here in your edges where you can't get very easily with any kind of a rigid block. So today, wet sanding, where we're at so far, we've started working some of that orange peel down. You can see, got a lot of the bigger sections already flat. Now we'll have to switch to some smaller blocks to get into some of these other areas where it's just not going to be that flat, at least not with my skill level, but it's still extremely flat, and it's coming along. When I was talking about using these long blocks and eventually having to switch to something shorter, here's a good example where you can see that that long block is not contacting where this bed begins to roll around. If I were better, you know, maybe this whole bed would be so straight that you could put one single straight edge across the whole 6 feet of it, and it would all be flat. But I'm just not that good, and that's one thing that I kind of had to realize once I started using the polycarbonate blocks, is they are so flat that they really show everything. And that's fine, because we can still switch over to even a shorter block, or even in the end, we may have to use something like a Durablock or a foam block of some sort. This is amplified in that this is, you know, you can clearly see where that boundary is, but it's still super flat. And just to switch up and get something, I'll go ahead and get that orange peel out. once we polish it, I really don't think, unless you're being overly critical of what's actually a daily driver, I really don't think you're gonna see it. But like I say, the polycarbonate blocks are just super straight, and that's what, you know, I guess a lot of the super high-end car guys are using to get those mirror finishes. And that's kind of what we're shooting for. You know, we want to do the best we can do, but just to be realistic with myself, I'm really not even capable of the kind of work that I see a lot of these guys doing. That's what they do for a living, but there's no reason not to shoot for it. So that's what we're doing. So we've got the whole bedside done with the 800 grit, as well as the other side. But we did manage to get the orange peel out, and so we'll be switching to 1200 and then on to 1500 and on up before we cut and buff.